Hey YouTube, my name is Nick, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you an oddly specific way on how to get a physical copy of Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire to work on a Nintendo Wii console, and I'm going to walk you through the steps of what it takes in order to make this possible. The first thing you need, obviously, is a physical copy of Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire, and for this video I'm going to use my Japanese copy of Pokemon Ruby. But it also requires a few other things. Firstly, you also need a physical copy of Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, and it has to match the region of the game that you want to run. So here I have the Japanese copy of Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, and so I will load this into my Wii momentarily so that I can further explain how this works. However, you also need a Game Boy Advance, and you need the Game Boy Advance to GameCube adapter cable. And so here's what we're going to do. First thing we have to do is we have to load our game into our Game Boy Advance, like so. And as you can see, my Japanese copy of Pokemon Ruby is in there. The next thing you want to do is attach your Game Boy Advance to GameCube cable to your Game Boy Advance. And then you want to take the GameCube end and plug it into the slot 2 port of your Nintendo Wii. The next thing you'll want to do is you want to take out your copy of Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, and you want to insert your disc into the Wii. And it should show up on the disc channel. And as long as your disc is not scratched, it should load. So when the title screen loads, obviously you want to press start. And there's these two options in Japanese. So for those who do not know what Pokemon Box is, in case if it was unclear, Pokemon Box is not really a GameCube game. It's more so like a helper software kind of thing. And so if you play a lot of Pokemon games and you capture a lot of Pokemon, you might want to store your Pokemon on a GameCube memory card, and so that's what this software basically allows you to do. But one of the other secondary features that it has is that it actually lets you play your copy of Pokemon Ruby or Sapphire on your TV. So this would also work on a GameCube, but it's just kind of redundant on a GameCube because they have the Game Boy Player add-on. But obviously the Nintendo Wii does not have this add-on, and so that's why I'm making this video, just to showcase the fact that this actually works. And it's basically a very niche way to play Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire specifically on a Nintendo Wii. And so now these instructions will come up and it will tell you to plug your Game Boy Advance into the second slot, which I've already instructed you to do. So all you have to do now is turn on your Game Boy Advance and it will connect on the screen. And this message should appear, which if I'm not mistaken, I'll put the correct translation on the screen, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe this says that you may now turn off your Game Boy Advance just so that it doesn't drain the battery while you're playing the game from your TV. And it works. So as you can see, I'm actually playing Pokemon Ruby on my Wii. And believe it or not, the way how this is all working is that this is actually an emulator that is built into Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. Now, of course, the entire game is still in Japanese. That does not change. But I'm actually playing Pokemon Ruby on my Wii, basically by using my physical copy. I'll just get into a Pokemon battle really quick. So again, this does not act like a Game Boy player for the Wii, as this only allows you to play Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire on your Wii, which is pretty dang cool. I don't know what these say. I don't know which one's Ember. This might be Scratch, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, that was Scratch. Okay. Let's see if I can catch this Ralts. Hey, nice. I got it. I don't want to nickname Ralts. Okay, so if I go back in here and I go like this, Okay, so now, so when you save, it will ask you to turn on your Game Boy Advance. I'm pretty sure that's what that text says, maybe. Okay, I think that may have worked. Yeah, there we go. I think this yellow screen now tells you that it saved successfully. So if I were to open this menu, there's three options that appear, and I did this by pressing the Z button. The top option says, I believe, continue the adventure. The second one says quit, like stop the adventure, and the last one says take a photo. So if I go like this, then I hit yes, it will stop the game there. Now if I turn on my GBA and look at my save file, I should have a Ralts. And there's Ralts. So that works. So yes, you do not need to keep your Game Boy Advance on while you are playing on your TV. But when you want to save, you'll have to reconnect your Game Boy Advance and turn it on, and then it will basically put the save back onto the cartridge. So that works. And so now what I want to try is, just to make sure, just to hammer this point home, because I do actually have a North American copy of Pokemon Ruby. Will that work with the adventure mode in Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire on the Japanese copy of the game? If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it is region locked, but I just want to definitively prove it by doing it in this video. So I'm just going to take out my Japanese copy of Ruby. Okay, I reinserted my North American copy. And so I'm going to link the game, and I'll translate what it says in Japanese if I try to do this. So I'm going to turn on my Game Boy Advance. This is the screen that appears, by the way, when you're doing this. Oh no, it just straight up pretends it's not even there. Oh, the battery died in my Ruby. I might have to replace that again. I'll have to take a look at that later. Sorry, let me just show you what the screen looks like when I put my Japanese copy in, because I don't think I showed that. But when I turn this on, this is what you should see when the game is connecting to the GameCube. The fact that it skipped over it tells you that this feature is region locked, which means that if you wanted to do this with your Wii and in a North American copy of Pokemon Ruby, you would also need a North American copy of Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. And the unfortunate thing is, last time I checked the market, Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire goes for like $2,000. So this is not possible to do for cheap, and it also doesn't make sense to do it because you could just buy a GameCube and a Game Boy player for much, much, much cheaper, and it will play more than just Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. In fact, this software will not play Pokemon Emerald either. So why did I make this video? Just because I wanted to showcase the fact that this is possible and it's kind of interesting. And so if you know anything about the homebrew scene on the Nintendo Wii side of things, there might be something in the back of your mind that you might be thinking of. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So those of you who are familiar with the homebrew scene on the Nintendo Wii, you might know that it is possible to run GameCube games from your microSD card by using this homebrew software known as Nintendont. So you might be thinking, well, what if I run Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire via Nintendont? Will it let me play my copy of the game from here? And I'll show you what happens if you try to run Adventure Mode using Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. And of course, I'm going to do it with my Japanese copy of the game, which I have inserted into my disk drive. So when I select SD, I can actually boot my disk copy of the game right here. And I've also tried this by dumping my Japanese copy of the game and then running it this way too, and it gave me the same results. So this is an exact problem with Nintendont. And I will show you what the actual developer said about this issue. But yes, as I was saying, the box functionality does work, but the adventure mode, unfortunately, will not. So, although this screen will come up, and it will tell you, go ahead and turn on your Game Boy Advance, I'll show you right now that I'm going to do just that. Okay, I have my Japanese copy of Ruby inserted. Alright, it's starting. It will show it as connecting, but this screen appears, and although that message appears if you try to start it, it unfortunately does not get past this point. And so this is a problem with Nintendont itself. But as you saw before, when I played it from the disc channel, it actually worked no problem. So what happened here? Why is this not working?